Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to Pocono Raceway, race 12 of 20 on the year in the Clutch Drop Cup Series. I'm Carlos Zimmerman. Alongside of me, Sam Dyer here on lap 5 of 130 laps in this first stage. Tristan Maher doing a good job so far. One of the fastest cars in practice and qualifying, and he has opened up a lengthy near second lead over outside pole sitter Bronson Stafford. The pole sitter Justin Munsell right behind him. Tyler Riggs nearly getting it to the 24 at David Duran, but they are side by side as they head down the Long Pond straightaway. Sam, this is going to be a really tricky race tonight. We've seen here early on, it's going to be, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I got distracted. David Duran blanked for a minute. That's always a scary moment, but as they're going to go three wide here, Robert Kenny taking the long way around them as David Duran is going to start sliding back. There's last week's winner, Brandon King. But as I was saying, this is going to be a really tricky race tonight, and we talked prior to coming on that these guys are going to have to pit in every stage, and that is something that these guys are not used to, especially at a track like Pocono.
Yeah, the battle for fourth place continues to be wild. Still three wide action, and finally backing off. It's going to be Kazi, and yeah, these drivers are going to have to pit every single stage. The fuel window is anywhere from 20 to 24 laps, and so it's going to be something for these drivers to really look at. Do they want to pit early and then try to just have a shorter pit run, or do they want to push their fuel all the way to the max? A lot of these drivers so far that we've been watching have clobbered the wall multiple times, but right now, Tristan Maher under a lot of fire from Bronson Stafford.
Here he comes to the inside, down here through the tunnel turn. Bronson Stafford sticking it to the 17 of Maher. Bronson again started on the outside of the front row. He's bringing his luminary teammate and Justin Munsell with him. Can Munsell muscle it off a 3? No, he cannot. Maher will hold on to the spot for the time being. Maher, a little bump draft down the front straightaway at the start-finish line to Bronson Stafford as it's a train of cars up here trying to pull away from Robert Kenny, who's all by himself in fourth.
Yeah, and Robert Kenny is kind of in a disadvantaged spot with no one really to help him with the draft. The draft is so important on these straightaways, and that's why we're seeing our top three kind of pull away from one another as Maher gets a little out of shape. And it's looking like Maher might have used up his tires too soon, because early in this race, we saw Munsell and Stafford back off a ton. I think they might have been saving while Tristan Maher was pushing as hard as he could.
Remember, we talked prior to the race that these guys, they're going to start seeing the tire fall off around lap 10, and so the trouble spots we're going to have to watch are going into 1 and then coming out of 3. We saw in practice they were all slipping and sliding coming out of turn 3. You saw it right there with Tristan Maher as Robert Kenny is going to start bearing down on him. He'll hold on to third here at the line, but it's only going to be a matter of time before Kenny is able to get around the Maher machine. It is a hornet's nest, though, back around 5th place. David Duran trying to make some passes on Joseph Kazi, trying to bring another luminary driver in Shane Terrian with him, but Kazi will slam the door on the 83, but not for long. Here comes Terrian to the inside of Kazi as Duran, he showed a little bit of speed right at the beginning, but starting to fall off a little bit is that number 24.
Yeah, you're starting to see who has the long run setup and who really doesn't have it, because this track, yes, we're only 8 laps in, but it's such a massive course. It's 2.5 miles, so it just seems so much longer, and you're wearing the tires so much more. But behind them, Tom Bourne, Evan Coleman, and others, 3 wide action here for 7th place. And you really can't go 3 wide around most of these corners, or you're going to be finding yourself spinning yourself around. But Shane Terry and Tom Bourne, they started in the back half of the field back in 19th and 20th position. They've already marched their way up into the top 10.
Trying to join their luminary teammates who are running 1, 2, 3 as Kenny has gotten around Tristan Maher. You see Brandon King right there in the 5th place, your winner from Auto Club, the 5th driver to lock himself into the playoffs, with Garrett Powell likely not returning to the series. It has opened up the door for a lot of other drivers to make a march towards those playoffs in just a few races away. You look at the points, Mike Tellier, he is on top of the board right now on the playoff grid, and I'm looking through here. He is struggling right now, back in the 23rd position, running behind a little that second pack back there. You see Nick King, Derek Schilling, Travis Daly, and Matt Dyer back there. Not a good run for Mike Tellier, and we've noticed how he's just been slumping as of late there in that number 3 white and red machine.
Yeah, he's been really struggling the last couple of weeks. I mean, even last week he was running in the back of the field the whole entire race and never really found the momentum to carry forward and was caught up in some wrecks. So Most of these drivers, they're kind of trying to figure out how to change the slumps that they're in and trying to carry that momentum into the playoffs. But if you're stuck in a slump all season long, there's no way you can really get out of it, even though we've already seen Mike Tellier win 3 races this year, but it was in the first part of the season, and that was before a lot of newcomers started merging into this league.
See him back there in 23rd. Another car I'm surprised that's running back here so early on is the number 2 of Matt Dyer, currently working on 19th here against Nick King in the 43, as he's still trying to peek his way in there. Nearly got into that left rear quarter panel as he's trying to move his way through the pack. Derek Schilling cuts off a little speed for Matt, so that might hurt him because here comes Daly right up to his back bumper. Looks like he'll hang on, but yeah, oh, car in the wall! It's I believe it's Bob Carroll.
Bob Carroll going to be dumped into the apron and onto pit road, as well as the 3's going to run into the 27. And no yellow will come out because the caution was off of the racing surface. So we stay green after seeing 2 cars collected.
It was, I think, Mike Tellier swung down towards pit lane to avoid the 27.
Daly gets into Nick Young and shoves the 43 almost up into the wall, as these guys are still, they're battling for the top 20th position, but they are really bumping off one another.
Well, and you think about it, Sam, we're at lap 11, so the tires are definitely starting to fall off on these cars, especially the ones way in the back of the field. So that's why you see guys like Bob Carroll getting out of shape as you look back to pit road. Mike Tellier looking like he's got a lot of damage because it's an extended stay on pit road for the 3. The bad string of races continue for the Tellier machine.
Yeah, and something we didn't notice because we were watching all that chaos on the back side of the field is that Robert Kenny has moved his way up into the lead for this 34 machine.
And Robert Kenny showed a lot of speed at Auto Club. We were thinking he could be poised with the strategy he played to try and win the race. He took stage 1, but that was all that Robert Kenny had. His only stage on the year. The man that's in 18th in points right now, 90 points out of that number 12 spot. So there is time for him to try and make up that gap, but it is a very daunting task for the 34 of Robert Kenny, who did not take the green flag at Daytona. Justin Munsell, he is settled into second now, the pole sitter, with Bronson Stafford right behind him in third. Shane Terrian and Tom Bourne have made it up to 4th and 5th. Get this, Sam, it's a luminary top 5 as they wheel it around heading towards turn number 1.
Yeah, and Shane Terrian and Tom Bourne, they had to work their way through all of that traffic. And now a car that was running in the top 15, Philip Scott, into the pits.
You see him wheeling his way down to his pit box. Don't think it's an unscheduled stop. I think it's he's trying to maybe make it to the end of this first stage. Again, that's about 17 laps from now when they will wrap up stage 1. Stages go as he slid through his pit box a little bit and had to back up. It's going to cost him some time.
Also, Brady Clark, the 88 machine, came in as well with the 8. So both these drivers coming in, trying to get service done. Brady Clark actually going to be taking tires and fuel, it looks like. But I think Brady Clark might have been penalized or might be getting some damage repair on that 88 machine.
Either way, it's an extended stay for him as you see him come out of the stall now, burning it up, heading down pit lane, and getting back onto the racing surface. The first car of 2 that are 1 lap down. Robert Kenny still taking control up front. Justin Munsell right in his tire tracks, though. Only a car length between the 34 and the 98 as they head to the Long Pond straightaway. Bronson Stafford, he lays in wait in third.
Yeah, we talked about drivers that were up front and were dropping back. Tyler Riggs, one of those drivers that qualified 5th. He is now back to 21st place, and you can obviously see visually on that right side of the 26 machine, he has clobbered the wall multiple times, and that is hindering this 26 machine from moving up.
Battle just in front of him, Landon Allers sticking it to the inside of Nick King. This is for the 19th position. Riggs thinking about joining that party as well, has to pick who to go with. Does he go with the 43 or the 33? Nearly door slamming is the 43 and 33 in the tunnel turn, but they keep it clean for the moment. But still side by side, right in front of Tyler Riggs, who started in the top 5 at the start of this thing. As lap 15 is on the board, we are halfway through this first stage. Another car into the pits. It's the 2 of Matt Dyer.
Yeah, Matt Dyer, one of those drivers you're talking about, that was further back after a couple of good runs the last couple of weeks. He's had fast machines. Doesn't look like he's got the fastest car out here this week.
Sliding through his stall is the 2 of Matt Dyer. I was watching him. He did not really get in well. He's way too close to that left side pit wall. I don't know what. Oh my goodness, this is a catastrophic mistake on the part of the two of Matt Dyer. He's finally into his stall, and he's going to take tires and fuel more than likely, but this is going to likely put him a full lap and a half down.
Yeah, it's not looking good at all for that 2 machine now, who is already in trouble and even further out. Also, an update on Bob Keller that we saw get loose out of 3 and going into the inside wall. That 27 machine is officially DNF'd, our first DNF of the race, and has parked it for the day.
First DNF on the day. Kevin Morin, he also was supposed to race today, but I believe he had some troubles early on, and he's going to be credited with 28th today. Battle for the lead down the Long Pond straightaway comes Justin Munsell around the outside of Robert Kenny. He makes the pass there and moved the 98, the pole sitter, back to the lead here as they come to the line. When they come to the line, it'll be lap 17 on the board, giving us 14 laps to go in the stage. Sam, when do you think our top 5 Illuminary guys are going to start considering pit lane?
I'm expecting them to go as far as they can go. Maybe pitting around lap 22 to 23 might be their marker that they're looking at. 24 laps is as far as you can go, but it is really stretching it. You possibly could run out of fuel. Drivers I'm looking out for, though, that's going to be Shane Terry and Tom Bourne. They've been working together to cut through the field, and now they're working together, and they have really been catching up to our front 3. Also, a driver that just pulled into the pits. That's going to be the 20 of Stipe, who's coming in. And really, this is impressive to see what the 83 and the 54 are doing right now.
So you're watching the 20 make his way down the pit lane, seeing if he can get in cleanly. A couple cars have struggled to do that early on, and he is perfectly into his stall and should be ready to head back out in a minute. An extended stay, possibly to repair a little damage, but he's out after 7.8 seconds in his box, and he'll get back out there and will likely stay on the lead lap. Man started inside the top 10 at the beginning of this thing.
Right now, a lot of drivers staying single filed up, but looking up front of our top 3, Bronson Stafford into the pits now.
8 on lap 18 of 100. Bronson Stafford is in. Tristan Maher, he is in as well. First time in a little bit we've seen 2 cars come down pit lane at the same time. Philip Scott and Brady Clark were the first 2. Let's see here how Bronson has his stop here cleanly into his box, and he is good to go. Maher started 3rd right behind Bronson, and he'll slide into his stall, and he is perfectly good as well. So solid stops for both the 61 and the 17 as Stafford pitted out of the 3rd position.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers thinking just go for fuel, save the tires once the stage comes around. And looking at some of these drivers that are up front, you've got yourself Tom Bourne, who's trying to catch up to the front drivers. You also got Robert Kenny, who's going to be aiming for as many points as possible to set him up so he can point his way into the playoffs as he comes into the pits for that 34 machine.
So we know the window basically now of when these guys are going to pit around lap 18 and 19. We talked pre-race, the window was going to be like 19 to 24 laps. So they're going to pit right at the beginning of the window, even before the window opened up. So that just tells you how much they were really fighting hard out there. As Kenny is in a fuel-only stop for the 34 Luminary machine.
Also, Durant, Smith, Allers came in as well with the 34 of Robert Kenny. And now we wait still for our top 14 to be coming into the pits whenever they feel like it, because now they've entered that window the furthest that they can go. It's probably for the next 3 laps that we're going to be seeing a lot of these drivers trickling in still. But I think the drivers that pitted early, they're thinking, hey, let's save time. As Shane Terrian now pulling in the pits for that 83 machine, leaving Munsell all by his lonesome. Tom Bourne following Terrian as well.
Brandon King, he's going to keep it out there for the time being, and it's going to be the case with just about it, maybe everyone behind them as Terrian brings it in with Bourne. You saw David Duran, he overshot his pit box. So, man, an early trouble for some of these guys that have they're trying to get in the pit lane. Matt Dyer, David Durand, and then I'm trying to find the other one that made a mistake
Philip Scott as well.
Philip Scott. So I don't know what the issue is of these guys getting in their pit box. Something they need to correct with it over these next 80 laps of this race.
And it looks like Causey as well coming in with the driver. So 11 more drivers still needed to come in to the pits, and it looks like Causey might have missed his pit road box. He might have came in just and picked the wrong box when he came in, and now he's got filled up and ready to take off.
5.5 seconds in his stall. That's the fastest of anybody. So I wonder if he did miss his stall, as Justin Munsel's going to go by him here around the outside, and it's going to put Kazi a lap down. As Munsell is owning a 7.7 second lead over Brandon King. Two more cars have brought it into the pits. Travis Daly in the 15 and Nick King in the 43.
And Travis Daly and Nick King, they've been running around one another and helping one another out the best they can to try to get the best run moving forward, as they're both a part of NSM, so they're going to be doing their best to keep on trucking along. Now 9 drivers we still wait to come into the pits, and it's looking like it's a battle really for third on back that are all in line, ready to battle at any point.
That's Justin Belmonte right there in the number 12, and it looks like he is signaling to pit lane as he was way down at the bottom. Actually, no, he will not come in and pit. One man that will come in, though, pitting on a second, it's last week's winner at Auto Club, Brandon King in the 89.
Yeah, King going to be pulling it into the pits. It's looking like the 9 machine, who's back in 22nd place, 1 lap down, almost got into the wall and took out 3rd place, back to 5th for a second there. Been able to keep it off the wall, and everyone's able to get by, but a scary situation for those drivers. Also, waiting to see is Nathan Hall and Deshaun Gorham going to be pulling it into the pits with King.
So you see Gorham, he is in, and then the 28, he is in. Now we wait on 6 more drivers and to see when they will come into the pits. We're still following our leader, Justin Munsell. As you see, Landon Allers had to take evasive action to get around the 98, nearly ran into the back of them, but here comes the leader, the 98 of Munsell. He is into the pits.
Yeah, if these drivers want to go one more lap by, they can, but it's going to be Belmonte as well as Hardison pulling into the pits. That was Coleman, that was coming in. Hardison's going to stay out and try to lead a lap for this 14 machine.
Indeed, he will, it appears, as Derek Schilling, he joins them in the pits in the 69. Tyler Riggs, he is in as well, so we're just going to be waiting on the number 14 of Spencer Hardison. As you see, Munsell into his box cleanly. Trouble, though, in the pit lane, though. Evan Coleman, he overshot his box.
Coleman, that's the back up. And I believe about half the field might have had some type of issue here on pit road, and that's going to hurt them so much. That's losing seconds over your competitors when you were coming in, being behind by maybe just tenths.
So about 5 drivers that we documented that made pit road miscues as we're watching the 14 Barstool Sports Ford Mustang of Spencer Hardison wheeling his way around. He's going to come in, bring it in for fuel, maybe tires if he so wishes to do, and he will settle in to his pit box, and that will officially finish the cycle of pits as we're watching the battle for what will be the lead. Here is the 98 of Munsell. Right behind him is his teammate, the 83 of Shane Tyrion, our winner back at Dover.
Yeah, and Tyrion is looking extremely quick right now. Like we said, he qualified back in 19th, didn't even set a lap time. First car of those that didn't set a lap time, and now has worked his way up to 2nd place and is really looking extremely quick for these drivers. And someone to watch out for a favorite to win this race. Another driver to watch out for, Tom Horn. He's back in 4th place, but it's been losing ground on Kenny, Tyrion, and Munsell.
Tell you, one guy that really benefited out of this pit run was Dylan Stipe. What a run. And the caution is out on the speedway.
That looks like it's Philip Scott. Also the 3.
Oh!
Tellier involved in more cars scattering in.
Tristan Maher got a piece of the 8 of Philip Scott. He is pinned up against the turn 1 wall here. Everyone else trying to scramble to get around him. It looks like Landon Allers, he was involved.
Tellier went flipping in the 3, and it looked like initially that it was Hardison coming out of the pits, believe, and they were trying to avoid the 14, and it caused both the drivers to make contact of the 3 and the 8.
Let's look back and see exactly what happened to Spencer Hardison. He's back onto the racetrack, listed in 7th for the time being. Let's see if indeed it was the reason why we're under our first caution of the night, just a quarter of the way in, and I do believe the 14 could potentially be at fault. You see him coming out of the pits here. Watch the 8 come in, just nowhere for them to go. What a ride for Mike Tellier up on his lid, up into the wall. Brandon King, last week's winner, doing great evasive action. We'll take a second look at this. You see Landon Allers, he is all torn up. You saw Philip Scott, he's all torn up as we'll back it up here and look from the perspective of the three of Mike Tellier was battling Philip Scott for position.
Yeah, Brandon King, you talked about him trying to evade. He actually was in contact with Philip Scott, and both Landon Allers and Philip Scott have both DNF'd from this race after the hard contact and feeling like their race is done. And Brandon King, with that scrape that he got on the right side of that 89 machine, I'm nervous. That could be a lot of aero damage that could be affecting him on the long term.
Take one on board, and it's going to be with the 51 of Evan Coleman. He did a fantastic job getting through his wreck. He also gave us a really, really nice vantage point as you're right on board with the 51 CEM Motorsports machine. You'll see the 8 and the 3 ricochet off the wall, misses the 8, and then has to pick a line. Where's the 3 going to end up as he's upside down? My goodness, what a ride for Mike Tellier, as that gave you a really good perspective, and that is why we are under our first caution of the evening here tonight at the Pocono Raceway.
Multiple drivers going to be coming into the pits. Bronson Stafford going to be leading that charge of machines. And this is around the time, I mean, if you're going to be going for a stage win, why not come in, get tires, and then try to make a charge here? Because you know you're going to have to at least pit once the stage 2 comes around. But this is going to give us, I believe, a 2 to maybe a 3 lap shootout for the drivers that are going to be having a chance before the end of stage 1.
Lots of cars from 13th on back are into the pits. Bronson Stafford, as you mentioned, Sam, Tyler Riggs, David Duran, Joseph Causey, some front runners. Brandon King making an extended stay as well because of the damage he possibly accrued in that incident. Has put us under this yellow. He is still sitting in there. We'll see where he comes out. But of the cars that stayed out, nothing really shocked me. 4 luminary cars at the front, first through fourth, Munsell, Terry, and Kenny and Bourne. Then you got Dylan Stipes, Spencer Hardison, who was the inadvertent cause of the wreck. Belmonte, Evan Coleman, Tristan Maher, Derek Schilling, Nathan Hall, and Campbell Delaney are the 12 that decided to stay out under this first caution period.
Yeah, the majority of cars that came in, it looked like a lot of them had right side damage from hitting the wall or even hitting someone else possibly. So this gives them time to get those repairs done instead of waiting until the stage to get the repairs done. So then get it done early and possibly have a charge here come to the end.
Again, do want to document 2 cars out of the race due to this incident. Philip Scott and Landon Allers going to finish out 25th and 26th. Respectively. Bob Carroll, he was out due to an earlier incident that did not induce a yellow, and Kevin Morin did not take the green flag. Those are your 4 cars out of the race. Only one a lap down is Mike Tellier, but he is still in the pits receiving service after the harrowing flip that number 3 Motorsports machine took.
And now we wait and see how are these drivers going to react. With just a couple of laps, going to be a 3-lap shootout for these drivers. We're racing to the end of lap 30, and that will be the end of stage 1. So the drivers are getting racked up and ready to go. Carlos, these drivers have a lot to deal with, especially due to the fact that, you know, we had so many drivers coming into the pits. Our top 12 are drivers that did not come in. But Bronson Stafford leading the charge of drivers that got repairs done and might have even tried to go for tires to have a better stage finish here and possibly get a stage win.
I'll say this, Sam. The aggression level is going to be up here for these final 3 laps in this first stage. Playoff points are on the line. A cold 10 points are up for grabs with this stage. You know, it's valuable going through the rest of this regular season. I think there's a sense of urgency happening because, Sam, we got 3 races left. Next week, we're in Bristol for 300 laps at the Thunder Valley. Then we're in Fort Worth, Texas, at Texas for 200 laps. Then the off week for Christmas, and then the final regular season race is Richmond. So there's just 3 races left for any to the playoffs that way, and there's not a lot of time for the already locked into the postseason to accrue as much points as they can so they can have the biggest advantage in the playoffs when we head to Kentucky on January 10th. So Let's see how this plays out. Justin Munsell, Shane Terrian, Robert Kenny, Tom Bourne, the 4 luminary guys, top 4, and then Dylan Stipe right there in 5th. Who's going to take stage 1? Justin Munsell's on the gas. Green flag back in the air. 3 to go in this stage. Munsell gets a good jump on his teammates. Let's see if they can organize up and try to run down their teammate in the 98, as you're going to watch him here just fly into turn number 1, side by side for second. Robert Kenny going to take that away from Shane Terrian.
Nathan Hall going to be making contact in the middle of turn 1, able to save it somehow was Hall. I don't know how that 28 machine did.
He almost lost it again on the exit of turn 1, but he saves it. It's going to cost him some valuable spots, but we stay green as a result. Robert Kenny settles into second now, sets his sights on Justin Munsell. He won stage 1 last week at Auto Club. Can he do it again here at Pocono? He is right in the slipstream of the 98. Tom Bourne, we've talked about him so far in this race. He has got a lot of speed. One of the favorites to possibly win tonight, but a little loose on the exit of the corner. Terrian might be able to pounce on.
Yeah, and a lot of these drivers are going to be feeling, like you were talking, the pressure of trying to have the best finishes you can. Points are so important. You can honestly win stage 1 and 2 and still almost get more points than if just winning the race. So the stage points, very important if you want to make it into the playoffs, and that's why some of these drivers are feeling that tension and why they might be making some of these mistakes.
Look who's on the move. Here comes the 69 of Derek Schilling to the inside of Spencer Hardison, looking for a great finish in this first stage. We have really not talked about this guy much this year, and he is up here starting to run down the luminary guys.
Yeah, Derek Schilling went for tires on his green flag pit stop, and that's why we're seeing him making such a huge run right now in that 69 machine. We'll see, though, can he get past these luminary guys as they're in line, but here comes the 69.
Oh, whoa! Shane Terrian, major league block, nearly down into the checkerboards on the front straightaway. White flag in the stage. They're going to be 3 wide here, going into 1. Here comes the 69 of Schilling. He's going to try and give it all he can to run down Munsell. He might be too little too late, but he's not going to go down without a fight. The 54 way up the racetrack here could be trouble, but he keeps it off the wall. Here comes the 69 of Schilling with a lot of speed. He might have an opportunity here.
He really can. He just needs to get a good corner through here. Turn number 2, and they're side by side for the lead. This is giving Derek Schilling the best opportunity because he can duck it down low, take it 3 wide if he wants. With the fresher tires, he could really make this stick, but he's kind of getting boxed in now. He can't make a move. Here comes Tom Bourne now to the inside. Schilling has to go 3 wide on the outside as they're 3 wide through turn number 3.
What a battle all the way to this end of the stage, and Derek Schilling with the fresh tires, it's going to pay off. He is going to win stage number 1 here in Pocono, going from 5th to 1st in a matter of a lap and a half. What a drive out of the number 69 of Schilling.
And that's what you get for those fresher tires. You might be hurting yourself maybe at the start of this next stage, but you will also be trying to go for fresh tires on your next pit stop, and you might have the same exact output of getting a win. Derek Schilling getting his first stage win of the season and could be helping himself out, possibly getting into the playoffs.
Look where he's at in the standings. Trying to find him here. 28th, 66 points. Hasn't run a lot of races this year. He's, of course, a long shot away from trying to get into the playoffs by points, but man, a win, you're in. So he has got a really interesting strategy going there in that number 69 of Derek Schilling. As I'm trying to find him here, we'll get to talk to him in just a moment. Man, what a drive for him right there, taking down the 4 luminary guys that were up at the front and have been dominant the most of the night. Sure, fresher tires prevailed, but it doesn't matter. He played the strategy right. Munsell gets 2nd, Robert Kenny 3rd, Tom Bourne 4th, Shane Terrian 5th. That's your top 5 in stage 1. Spencer Hardison, Belmonte, Dylan Stipe, Evan Coleman, and Travis Daly. Rounding out your top 10, they will all get stage points from first getting 10th, 10th place getting 1.
As we're looking to see if we can get Schilling up here. I mean, yeah, that was a very gutsy call on his part to even go for 4 tires because, you know, even with 4 tires and the way timing that he came into the pits under green, it really wasn't giving him a great shot until that caution came out. And that's when Schilling had the chance to pounce with the fresher tires. And, you know, sometimes you need a little bit of luck to give you a shot here. And really that helped this 69 machine out to get the win here at stage number 1 at Pocono.
Well, with that said, let's talk To the number 69, Derek Schilling, your stage 1 winner. Hey, Derek, this is Carlos and Sam in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yeah, how you doing?
Doing very well, and let me just say, there's only one word that I can think of right now. That was that last lap, gutsy. A gutsy call to go with 4 tires. Sure, it may hurt you here at the beginning of this first stage, but it got you and netted you 10 stage points. Man, what a call!
It was just luck, honestly. I was hoping that it was going to get a caution, but nothing seems to go my way ever. So it was lucky, but like you said, it's going to probably hurt me here at the beginning. But the tires have really been holding up with this setup, so I'm liking the fact of that.
Yeah, I mean, Derek, it gives you an opportunity now to be up front with all the other drivers. And really looking at the timing that you took the tires for, it was extremely lucky of when the caution came out. How are you feeling about going into this next stage, though, and your competitiveness to try to stay up in the top 10, maybe even the top 15?
As long as we can get some long green flag run, I'm very confident with the setup that we've got with NSM.
Alrighty, Derek, I saw you missed your stall there for just a second. Doesn't look like it's going to hurt you too bad. Best of luck to you the rest of the way. If you take stage 2, we'll talk to you then, man. Best of luck.
All right, thank you, guys.
You see him come out of the pits here. You saw he just missed his stall. And he's going to roll off 4th here because the 24 of David Durand and the 28 of Nathan Hall, I think they only took fuel, Sam.
Yeah, they only took fuel. They came in. I believe they also were drivers that took tires on the last caution. So it allowed them to just go for fuel, have the better track position compared to the other drivers. But now you got to watch it, the drivers that have that advantage of Justin Munsell, Robert Kenny, and all the other drivers behind them with 4 fresh tires, because now they're going to be making their charge up to the front. And you're hoping that you don't lose too much time as they start to pull away.
Do want to report Mike Tellier, he is now out of the race. He'll finish out in 24th. Man, I'll tell you what, Sam, those 3 wins he got at the beginning of the season before a lot of newcomers came in and kind of took over here in Clutch Drop, those 3 wins are they're really going to benefit him in the long run. But if he wants any shot at taking this title, he's got to get it together.
Yeah, right now, points-wise, Mike Tellier looking like he should be getting the points, getting the regular season win, championship win, but going into the playoffs, he's got to find some type of momentum or just find the right setups, because this 3 machine started in the back, stayed in the back, was caught up in an accident that really took out and snuffed out a chance for Mike Tellier to have a chance to climb his way through the field. So right now, I think Tellier might be thinking just playoffs, get the setups for the playoffs. So he's got the chance. He's already got the 3 wins, like you said. He's locked into the playoffs. He's got that's his focus from this point on.
It's a bit of a Chevy sandwich here at the front. It's 2 Chevys in the front row, David Durand, Nathan Hall. Then a pair of Toyotas there, 3rd and 4th. And then you have another pair of Chevys right behind them in Derek Schilling and, sorry, I think I looked at it wrong here. But anyway, regardless, it's a Chevy party up here at the front of this field as Robert Kenny and Justin Munsell, they're up here as well. I think they're trying to figure out how to grid here, but I think it looks like they settled it out. Brady Clark, he's going to be up here in 6th. A good pit stop for him. I believe he only took fuel under that pit stop there, so he's going to be restarting up in 6th here. Haven't really talked much about him today. Spencer Hardison, he's 7th. Shane Terrian, 8th. Justin Belmonte, 9th, and then Dylan Stipe rounds out your top 10. Real quick here before we head to green, Sam, what are you expecting in this second stage? Another 30 laps, just a little under 30 laps until we get to lap 60.
I would like to say that we're going to go green all the way to lap 60, but I'm nervous for these first about 3 to 4 laps. You've got drivers that didn't take fresh tires here on this stage and drivers that did take fresh tires. So the difference is going to be a lot of drivers with carrying a lot more speed than some others. The possible chance of an early wreck here is really looming over all the drivers at this moment.
Let's see how long those luminary guys allow the 24 and 28 to remain 1-2. Pace car's going to make the hard left-hand turn into the pits. We'll go green to lap 35 of 100, giving us 66 laps to go here tonight at Pocono. On the gas is Durand, but so is Munsell. Green flag back in the air. Kenny trying to put the bumper to the 28. They might be 3 wide into the corner. I don't know, but they're going to fan out here heading to 1.
Justin Munsell able to get under Durand and will make that pass with the 98 machine. And just like that, our pole sitter back up front as Munsell really looking quick out here. And right now, Schilling going to be holding strong in that 69 machine, trying to make the pass here on Durand. But don't look now, as you got Robert Kenny kind of stuck on the high side. Same with Tarian, but it's going to be Spencer Hardison with fresh tires, who's looking like he's making a charge on the inside.
Trouble for the 88 of Brady Clark. He is off the racing surface, getting out of the way of everyone. Looks like he may have gotten the wall off of turn number 1 onto the long straightaway. So something we're going to have to watch here as this race progresses, as the 98, he has said he has checked out from everybody and says, goodbye, I want to be out in front in clean air. As they come to the line, David Durand settles in second. Nathan Hall holding his own up here in third. Derek Schilling, he's now going to be under fire for the 4th spot from Shane Terry. And Spencer Hardison nearly took Belmonte's front end off, but it looks like they're going to battle as well. Lots of battling here on the inside the top 5. Are they going to go 3 wide? Yes, they will. That's going to be tight. Off the corner, still 3 wide down the backstretch.
Of all the places, coming off of 1 is not where you want to be 3 wide. Somehow, all 3 of those drivers survived. But that is really a heart-stopping moment, because you don't know if they're even going to be able to stay put. They did, and they continue pushing on. The driver up in 3rd place, Nathan Hall, you talked about how he's up front and running well. This is a shocker to see. He's one of the drivers that did not take fresh tires on at the end of the stage, but he is looking extremely quick. After the last time that we saw him, he was being kind of spun around by Bronson Stafford.
At the moment, Nathan Hall, he has pointed his way in to the playoffs. He's 9th on the playoff grid, top 3 of the drivers who have not won this year, in Philip Scott. With Philip Scott wrecking out of the race today, Scott's finishing 25th, and if I'm doing the math correctly, if Hall were able to get a top 10 finish, at least a top 10, it's going to be close, but he could move his way up to the 8th spot in points and give him a little extra cushion to get away from that 12th spot, which is currently held by the 15 of Travis Daly. Hall, for the moment, slides back to 4th. Justin Belmonte, he gets around Spencer Hardison for the 5th spot here on lap 37.
Yeah, and watching right now, Justin Belmonte and Hardison, they're trying their best, racing back and forth, but it just looks like Hardison off the exit of these corners, he's a little bit tight, pushes up to the wall, has to back out, and then gives opportunities to the cars behind him. It's more the entry where we're seeing Hardison have the best parts, but Belmonte taken off and now up to 4th place, pushing Hall back to 5th. And Hall might be losing even more positions as he's got Hardison, Stipe, and also Causey behind.
Belmonte, I believe he took tires under that pit stop, so he's got some fresh Goodyears on there, but it's only a matter of time before those fall off as well. These guys pitting at around lap 32. The window should open up around lap 50 at the midway point. We'll have to watch and see how that plays out. Hardison a little loose in entering the tunnel turn, but it looks like he's all right, and he'll keep on trucking in the 5th spot. Nathan Hall will probably start continuing to cascade through this field. Joseph Causey, I thought he was sliding through on my grid. Car really loose, though, off of 3. That's the 54 of Tom Bourne. He's going to lose a spot to Derek Schilling.
Yeah, it looked like he got extremely close to the outside wall, had to back out of it, and also got a tad loose because he was turning so much to try not to hit the wall. And now we're going to see Tom Bourne dropping back 2 positions and now going to be falling behind his teammate Robert Kenny. And looking at the field, we're starting to see everyone's really started to spread out. But you talked about how Munsell just shot off like a rocket ship. He is so far now. Shane Tarian struggling to run down his teammate, but slowly chipping away at that lead. Right now, it's 1.3 seconds, and soon it could be less than a second.
Here comes Justin Belmonte. He'll get around David Durand for the 3rd spot as he is starting. He's really pushing right now in that number 12. You're right on board with him here in his machine as he is going to set his sights now on Shane Tarian, but I'm concerned if he's using a lot of it right now, you're going to start to see that 12 slide further back as this run progresses.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm watching for, the fact that also Durand, he's going to be someone that's going to be starting to slide back, just like how we're starting to see Schilling slowly drift back as well. But a driver that's slowly marching his way forward, that's going to be Tom Bourne, with connection with Robert Kenny and Bronson Stafford, those teammates staying in line and moving up now through the field.
Got a good pack of cars here around Nathan Hall. Joseph Causey, Derek Schilling, your Stage 1 winner. A little tight there with Bronson Stafford, but they keep it green. Oh, that was a near close moment. Tom Bourne trying to fight back now to the inside of the 5 of Causey. This is for the 9th spot. He's going to get it. Stafford's going to try and get around Nathan Hall as well. Well, Bourne, I thought he got it, but Causey fights back on the outside. Gets a good run out of the 3. It'll be a drag race at the line, 2x2, around 6th and 7th, as Causey's going to try and keep fighting to hold that spot. Your best battling on track right now happening around this group of 6.
Yeah, and really, if you can get a good launch out of 3, if you can stay on line on that outside groove, that line is going to be moving the fastest because more cars are congested, utilizing the draft a little bit better than what the inside's going to do because there's just not as many drivers there. And that long straightaway just allows you to utilize the draft to battle back.
David Duran starting to slide backwards, restarted as the leader, but now is going to fall to 7th, likely to fall maybe even way outside the top 10, as that everybody is right up here. That you can put about, it's 2 seconds between Derek Schilling in 5th and Tristan Maher in 15th. They are all really close to each other. I know 2 seconds is big in some cases, but they're hanging in there as everyone is wheeling their way around this 2.5 mile triangle.
The longer this run goes on, though, the more I'm starting to notice Tristan Maher and Tyler Riggs, as well as Caleb Smith, they've been slowly marching their way forward as well. It seems like the longer the run goes on, but all 3 of those machines just get better and better. But that's just, we're seeing it right now. At the start, it was Tristan Maher that was the first car to really take off and then drop back. The 17 machine might have made some adjustments on pit road as he's looking good at the moment.
Maher gets around Tyler Riggs, and Nathan Hall spins off the nose of someone as they don't get sideways. That was Dylan Stipe in the 20. Trouble in the tunnel turn between the 28 and 20.
Yeah, looking back at it, it looks like Nathan Hall got contact from Stipe that got him loose, and then it came down in the 20. Both of them hard into the inside wall. Not looking good for them for the day's end. Luckily, they didn't blow up their engines, but a lot of front end damage for both those machines.
A lot of rear end damage too to the 28. Restarted 2nd after the stage break caution. Both drivers coming down into the pit lane, and Dylan Stipe, who's 7th in points, highest of the drivers who hadn't won this year. Not what he wanted to see, as both of these guys were running well. Our drivers who are 7th, 8th, and 9th in points struggling here today at Poconos. All 3 of them, one of them, Philip Scott, out of the race. All 3 of them just having big trouble today.
The gap to the lead at one point was 1.2 seconds. Now Shane Terrian right on the bumper of the 98 machine, about to make it side by side for the lead down the front stretch.
There they are. 2 cars battling it out for the lead. Terrian with the advantage. Likely going to get the lead here into 1 in the preferred line. Indeed, he does. Munsell maybe going to try a crossover. Not close enough to do it. Moved the 83 to the point. Munsell enjoyed that nice lead for a little bit, Sam, but it's gone now as his teammates gotten around him.
Yeah, now these 2 drivers have over a 3-second gap lead over Justin Belmonte, who's trying to work with Spencer Hardison to try to run down our front 2. But this is a lot of work because Shane Terrian, he's been looking like the fastest car all race long so far. Hasn't really hit any of the walls just yet, and really is looking good for this 83 machine, who had to start in the middle of the pack at the start of the race, marched his way up to the lead, and now find himself here in the middle of stage 2, doing exactly the same thing, having to march his way forward, and now up front.
Lap 45 goes on the board. We got a new leader. You're not going to miss a thing, as we're going to go side by side for our first commercial break. You're watching the Clutch Drop Cup Series on the Flatout Racing Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
Since the VFW was founded, their mission was really to look out for the veterans community, to make sure that our nation upholds its promise to really care for the service member, the veteran, and his or her family. There are several ways that the VFW fights for veterans today. The top services include disability claims assistance, advocacy on Capitol Hill and with the Department of Veterans Affairs.
pit window has opened up for a couple drivers. You see Shane Terrian pitting out of the lead in the number 83 cleanly into his stall as these guys, this is about the right time. They pitted at the first caution, so about 18 laps, and Shane Terrian completes his service. Fuel only stopped for the 83 at a Luminary.
Yeah, and it's right at halfway marker, and this is something that some of the drivers might be thinking about. Also into the pits is going to be the 43 of Nate King, who's going to be coming in, and he's going to be in the further back. But Shane Terrian, with this pit stop, it's looking good for him to try to make a move now, because now he doesn't really have that much really to worry about. He got the lead. He was starting to pull away. Now he's going to be running up onto some lap traffic. He's got Freddie Clark in front of him. But for everyone up front, now it's going to be trickling time until for the next about 6 laps or so, a large group just came into the pits. Tom Bourne, Robert Kenny, and Bronson Stafford, the rest of the Luminary.
So 4 of the 5 Luminary drivers have brought it down here into the pits. The only one we're waiting on is Justin Munsell. Let's watch the 61 here. He heads into his stall as he'll slide it in there perfectly. Robert Kenny, a little crooked, but he'll be able to get service and he'll be good to go. A good solid pit stop for Stafford, 5.6 seconds. Tom Bourne, he's out. Robert Kenny is out, and they are good to go for the rest of this run on fuel. Justin Munsell, he owns a 4-second lead over new second-place driver Spencer Hardison. Let me tell you, Sam, I'm really impressed so far with this number 14. He has had some good runs through the middle portions of races, just hasn't been able to close out a decent finish. Has a couple top 10s to his credit, but lately hasn't really been able to find his stride. This is the highest that I have seen him run when it comes to just running consistent green flag laps. And usually you see him up at the front whenever people are cycling through the pits. So to see him running well and consistently up in the top 5, it's a nice sign to see for that number 14 Barstool Chevy.
Yeah, and it's one of those things of staying out and hoping for the best once that first caution came out before the stage. So it gave him the track position to be able to stay up front, and the car's just been good enough. Also, more machines coming into the pits. Got the 9 car that's coming in. Also, when we saw all the Luminary guys come in, Matt Dyer also came in for that 2 machine. A much cleaner stop for the 2 of Matt Dyer compared to his first stop. And that's what I'm expecting from a lot of these drivers. Their second stop here on the green flag run should be much better than the first one. Justin Munsell, our leader, into the pits.
You see Munsell there in that Tahoe Toyota making his way into the pits. Do want to report Nathan Hall still sitting in the pits, though. Hasn't gotten out of the race just yet, but it's likely over for that number 28. And Nathan Hall, Dylan Stipe, he has returned to the racetrack as well. He is a 1 lap down in 22nd. You're here to see the 98. He is into his stall cleanly and is good to go. Joseph Causey, the only other one that joins him in the pits. Very quick stop for Munsell, a 5-second flat.
Yeah, and really, for the drivers that are taking about 5 seconds, they're thinking about just getting enough fuel in until the end of the stage. For the drivers that do about a little bit longer than 5 seconds in the pits, they're thinking about the long run of, hey, I want to make sure I have the most fuel packed into my car, so when the stage does come out, I don't have to worry about the fuel as much once that stage comes around.
Justin Munsell, he is good. You're watching what will essentially be the battle for the lead when everything cycles through. 10 cars have not come down to the pit, make that 9. Caleb Smith is in to the pits. You're watching Shane Terrian here, 4/10 behind his teammate in the 98. 2 of the cars you got to beat today if you want to win here in Pocono as the 25. He is making his way down pit lane in that Old Spice Ford as he's into his stall cleanly and will get service.
Yeah, right now watching Spencer Hardison, and so he's trying to get by the 9 car, will do so, and going to be putting him another lap down, possibly, as they're still side by side. And that's the one thing that we haven't really touched on is lap traffic, on how lap traffic could influence the races if we get into an extreme long run with these drivers. Is now Belmonte's going to be sticking it down close to that white line, slightly drifting up. Got to be careful there, as now Hardison coming into the pits.
Little hot coming in, but looks like he got it down to pit road speed. Pit road speed 55 miles an hour, having to come down from 170 to 55 coming out of turn 3. You saw Justin Belmonte, like Sam alluded to, was really tight there with that number 9 of Campbell Delaney, but got by him cleanly. He's currently the leader as we're still waiting on it. It looks like 8 cars to come down and make their stops. Belmonte, Schilling, Maher, Riggs, David Duran, Deshaun Gorham, Brandon King, last week's winner, and then Evan Coleman. Let's see, we're following the 12 right now as folks, we have reached the halfway point of the race. If you're just joining us here in the Clutch Drop Cup Series, I'm Carlos Zimmerman here alongside Sam Dyer here on the Flatout Racing Network. We hope you have enjoyed it. Just to get you up to speed, 5 cars out of the race, 4 due to wrecks, 1 did not take the green flag. Only a couple cars off the lead lap, Dylan Stipe and Nathan Hall. We've had 2 cautions, 1 for a wreck, as you see Belmonte into the pits, 1 for a wreck back on lap 26, and then for the stage break at lap 30. Derek Schilling was your stage 1 winner, as he has just retaken the lead here as cars are cycling through into the pits.
Yeah, Schilling back up front after winning stage number 1. He was on the much older tires at the start of stage 2, and it just has been dropping back right now, trying to hold on. But yeah, more drivers coming into the pits. Is Evan Coleman as well coming in with King there.
See Brandon King, last week's winner at Auto Club, said it all night long. Big, crucial win for him. Evan Coleman will file in right behind them, getting their fuel. A little bit of a longer stay for the 89. Had to really wheel it out of the pit lane there. An 8.6 second stop. Might be trying to pack it full of fuel. Might be strategy for that potential stage break. Derek Schilling keeps it out there for another lap, so it'll be a little bit longer before we see him come in. He pit at lap 28 or at lap 27 4 tires, so he's on 26 lap old tires. His fuel he pit at lap 32, so he's gonna have at least 3 to 4 more laps of fuel to work with before he's got to come down and pack that thing full. So maybe expect him to stay out for maybe another lap or 2 before he comes into the pits. Tyler Riggs, he is now into the 2nd spot. Tristan Maher, David Duran, another pair of cars into the pits.
Yeah, right now we're expecting our final 3, actually 4 drivers. Is Brady Clark back in 13th position. He has not pitted either during this stage. So 4 drivers officially still need to pit to finish out this stage on green flag pit stops. That's if we stay green. As we saw there on our first stage, there were the possible chance of a car getting loose, making contact with another machine and wrecking and causing a caution here. Possibility still looms over these drivers as the run continues on. Out of 3, still a very dangerous spot for these drivers.
Got a pack of luminary cars here, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Robert Kenny trying to get around Bronson Stafford. Tom Bourne trying to get around Robert Kenny as they're going to go side by side, the 61 and the 34. 34 getting a little loose, so that should help the 61's cause down the front straightaway. But Kenny not going to let him get anywhere, maybe trying to utilize the side draft down this front straightaway. The side draft here not as prominent as it would be at super speedways like Daytona and Talladega. As you see Tom Bourne, my goodness, that was close.
Yeah, I was about to say, Tom saw an opening, but then also thought, I might hit the apron, and it looked like he might have focused on the apron a little bit too much, bounced off of it, and almost got into Bronson Stafford there. Has to back off, and you're seeing him lose that time, but these drivers still running close to one another. And then about almost 5 seconds in front of these drivers, that's when you have what could be the battle for the lead to win this stage. That's Shane Tarian and Justin Munsell, as they're running 4th and 5th at the moment, as we're continuing to wait for our top 3 to come into the pits.
Derek Schilling has still made no motion to come into pit lane. I think what he's waiting on is potential caution to come out. He hasn't gotten it yet. He's owning a 3.6 second lead over Tyler Riggs out of Riggs Motorsports, PRM, one of the newer teams in the Clutch Drop Cup Series. Deshaun Gorham, he's the other car that we're waiting on to come into the pits. Brady Clark, he's another one we're waiting on as well, but he's back in 37 seconds off of the race leader, Derek Schilling. Schilling going to try and last it out there as long as he can. He's coming out of 3 here, and I believe that's going to be it. Here comes the 69, Derek Schilling.
Yeah, and Schilling almost had a scare of his own, as it looked like Delaney almost took out Evan Coleman about a lap and a half ago. Was not clear of the 51 machine, tried to come down and almost took both those drivers out, bringing out another caution. Luckily they keep it straight, but still side by side as these drivers are battling it out for 19th place, as now more drivers coming into the pits.
Derek Schilling and Deshaun Gorham, the 2 of the 3 that we were waiting on to make their stop. Now we just await Mr. Tyler Riggs at a PRM. He is up in front. 5 laps to go left in the stage. Obviously can't make it to the end of this stage on fuel, so we'll probably expect him this time by. And then with that will hand the lead back over to Shane Terrian as he's, but it's not a comfortable lead. It's about a 1/10 of a second between him and the 98 of Justin Munsell. We're going to keep watching the 26 here. He's going to bring it in this time, so let's move to the 83 and the 98.
Yeah, these two have been battling it out, duking it out. Shane Terrian snaking it down these straightaways, taking it all the way down to the apron and back up, and just trying to break any type of momentum that Munsell might be getting on these straightaways into the corners. And Shane Terrian willing to throw anything he can as the drivers are marching their way through. 4 laps to go until we're at the end of stage 2.
Munsell is right there on the deck lid of the 83 of Shane Terrian. He's hungry for a stage win. You look at both of them in the points. Munsell, he has a win, but no stage win. Shane Terrian, he's got 2 wins, one at Dover and I believe another one at Kansas, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, or Sam, you can do it too. But he has a stage win as well. I believe that one coming at Dover. So Munsell, he would love to have a stage win, his first on the year. It'd be helping him points-wise because, like I've been saying, all these points you get in the stage, they are incredibly valuable when it comes time for the playoffs. Here we go. Munsell can't quite get him that time. He'll stay content behind the 83. 3 to go here in stage 2.
Yeah, and right now we're looking to wait and see when will we be seeing Shane Terrian really try to block, if anything. We've seen him willing to block non-teammates to try to defend their positions, as Schilling got a real good noseful of Shane Terrian at the end of stage 1. But will we see any other type of movements here, as looking through the rest of the field as these drivers continue to battle on? You talked about how Tom Bourne, Bronson Stafford, they were battling hard. We could throw in Spencer Hardison now into that group of 3, now a group of 4, battling hard for 3rd place.
So, like you said, group of 4 right here. Robert Kenny trying to distance himself from these guys to try and get 8 stage points to his credit for finishing 3rd. Tom Bourne, he's in 4th. Stafford 5th. Spencer Hardison trying to get as much as he can as well there in 6th. Justin Belmonte, he's all by himself, though. 3 seconds back behind Hardison, but a whopping 11 seconds, just under 11 seconds, ahead of the 69 of Derek Schilling, Tyler Riggs, and then Caleb Smith. That rounds out your top 10 as we have 2 laps to go, and Justin Munsell has made the move. He has gotten around the 83 of Shane Terrian, but for how long, Sam, as they head to the back?
I mean, right now, I think Shane Terrian might be just following suit until that final lap for him to have that chance, as it's 2 to go for these drivers until the end of stage number 2 is done. Derek Schilling was able to get the win for the first. Looking like unless a quick caution comes out, it's going to be a battle between these two to figure out who's going to get the stage win. The battle for the top 10, though, wise, looking like the 10 drivers already solidified where they're at, just how spaced out everyone's been. But coming into corner number 3, coming to the white flag of stage number 2, Shane Terrian to the point.
Shane Terrian gets back around Munsell. White flag in the stage. 1 more lap to go here in stage 2 at Pocono. These guys serpentining all the way around the racetrack. Here comes Munsell again to the inside of his teammate of Shane Terrian. If he clears him off of 1 here, Terrian might have just 1 opportunity to try and get the 98, but they stay side by side down the back stretch.
Yeah, this is helping Munsell a ton because it's not giving Shane Terrian an opportunity to try to build up that momentum going into corner number 3. Now Munsell has just got to stay side by side. These drivers are going to race hard. They're teammates. They know how to race aggressive, but not really disastrous where they can possibly take one another out, as they're still side by side. For a second there, Shane Terrian, though, gets in front of Munsell.
Here they come through 3 for the final time in this stage. Munsell's going to have 1 more opportunity, looking for his first stage. Nearly got the wall. It's not going to work. Shane Terrian takes stage number 2 by about 0.6 of a second over Justin Munsell. A lot further than I thought. Whoa, Robert Kenny at the line got really wickedly loose. I don't know if that was planned or not, but he, I believe, got 3rd in that stage. Tom Bourne 4th and Spencer Hardison, your top 5. Shane Terrian, though, did the job that he needed to do, just holding off his teammate and Justin Munsell.
I don't know if Robert Kenny was just playing games. I don't know exactly what happened. It looked like he might have brushed the wall coming across the line, and then it shot him to the inside wall. Luckily didn't hit the inside wall, but that was a scary situation for Robert Kenny coming to the end of this stage.
Rest of the top 10 in the stage. Bronson Stafford gets 6th. Justin Belmonte 7th. Derek Schilling, he's 8th. Tyler Riggs 9th. And then Caleb Smith getting that 1 stage point for finishing 10th. 20 cars on the lead lap for these final 40 laps. This is going to be interesting as we continue on through this race. A big story developing here, though. Munsell into a closed pit.
Yeah, Munsell coming in, and I don't know if he understands that it was closed or not, because he just pulls in and without any worry. But most likely, this is going to put Munsell all the way back to the end of the line. Now, Munsell luckily already, luckily Munsell already has a win, and he's into the playoffs, but this is such an odd play for the 98 machine.
It's into his stall. It's looking like he's going to get 4 tires and fuel. It didn't look like he got the wall off of turn number 3, and he's out and away after a 16-second stop. But yeah, this pitting in a closed pit, it's going to put him at the end of the longest line, which is going to be 20th place for Justin Munsell. So he's got a tall task here on this restart as to whether he's going to be able to work his way through this field, and that might take a little pressure off of the 83 Shane Terrian. But you know what? I'm not going to leave it to speculation. Let's just ask the guy. Here's your Stage 2 winner, Shane Terrian. Hey, Shane, this is Carlos and Sam in the FRN booth. You got a copy?
I got you.
Quite a battle there with you and Justin Munsell there at the end of the stage. Just holding him off, though, trading the spot back and forth for the final 2 laps. Did he have anything for you, or did you just have the more muscle to beat him to the line?
He definitely got something for me. The whole team's running basically the same setup. I know he's running something a little different. I think he would have got me, but I just pinched him in turn 2 in the tunnel turn. That's what got it for me.
Yeah, Shane, we're going to let you get into your box, and we'll ask you some more questions. But a great run for Shane Terrian, as you guys have been seeing. This 83 machine's been looking solid. Shane, you saw on stage 1, you were able to climb your way through traffic. Munsell most likely will have to do the same because it looked like he came in too early. Do you feel comfortable now, though, that you can try to pull away, if we stay green, pull away from the rest of the field?
Maybe. I think I could. Justin's fast. All I did was save tires, and everyone else wore those out. But it's the 3rd stage, so I'd assume people are going to wear the things out. It sucks that he had to pit. He only had half a lap of fuel left, so that's why he pit. But he should be fine if he just saves his tires, because honestly, that's all I did, and I was able to track them down because draft is a huge factor here.
Alrighty, looks like you're gonna be restarting 3rd here as the 14 and the 69 both took, it looks like 2 tires or maybe even just fuel for Derek Schilling. Let's see how this third and final stage plays out. Best of luck to you, and if everything works out, we'll see you. Hopefully, we'll get to see you in victory lane. We'll see how it plays out. Good luck.
Yeah, we'll see. Thank you.
That was your Stage 2 winner, Shane Terrian. Like I said, he's going to be restarting 3rd here. As the 14, based on the telemetry, he looks like he took 2 tires, and Derek Schilling went fuel only. So the 83 going to have a couple cars to deal with here. Yes, we saw that earlier in the race with the 24 of David Duran and the 28 of Nathan Hall. Speaking of which, Nathan Hall, he is out of the race now in 23rd. He has parked it, and his day is done due to that incident with the 20 of Dylan Stipe in the tunnel turn.
Yeah, and also a driver we haven't seen in the top 10, even in the top 15, Matt Dyer, going to be up in 8th place, and just due to the fact that drivers had to stay in to get damage repair, and also just drivers having issues, it's now moved up that 2 machine that we were talking about having such an off day back in the late 20s, now up in 8th place.
But a gutsy call here out of the 14 is Spencer Hardison. We talked about him running very well today, something we haven't really been accustomed to seeing as the pace car lights are out. And we're going to go green at lap 65 of 100, giving us 36 laps to go, working the stage caution break here. Our 3rd one of the day overall. Only 2 of them for stage breaks, 1 due to a wreck. So I'm surprised we have it's been a relatively clean race outside of the couple of skirmishes that we have seen. Your top 10 for this restart will be Hardison and Schilling in the front row. Row 2, Shane Terry and Tom Bourne. Justin Belmonte, Bronson Stafford. Row 3, Row 4, Matt Dyer, Caleb Smith. And then Row 5 is going to be Campbell Delaney here and Joseph Causey.
Yeah, Delaney, who has been multiple laps down, has actually been able to get laps back and finding that 9 machine up in 9th place. It's going to be interesting how the drivers want to react around the 9 car that's been looking a little bit off the pace compared to everyone else. And we've seen him make contact with a few drivers that have been kind of unwarranted. So it's going to be interesting how the middle of the field has to react.
Back of the pack trying to catch up to the field. Evan Coleman, Brady Clark, Travis Daly, and Dylan Steib making that second pit stop under the last lap before we go green. I'm watching Justin Munsell here. Looks like he's going to restart 18th for this the rest of this run. Let's see how fast he can work his way through the field and try to get back to the leaders. In doing so, will it use up the tires he just put on that number 98 Tahoe Toyota at Luminary Racing? Here we go. The home stretch it is. Welcome to the final stage of this race here tonight at Pocono, race 12 of 20 on the year. Spencer Hardison's on the gas, and we're back to green flag racing. Lap 65 will go on to the board. Derek Schilling going to try and hold off Shane Terrian here on this restart, but Terrian with those fresh tires compared to Schilling's not so fresh tires, it should be the advantage to the 83.
Yeah, really, Shane Terrian looking quick, and following him right behind is going to be Tom Horn and Bronson Stafford. As though those drivers, but you got to be close. Oh, no, the wreck in the back. That's going to be Nate King and others going into the wall, and Justin Munsell was involved in that.
98 bouncing off the inside wall. Heavy left side damage to the 98 of Justin Munsell. You saw Nick King off the racing surface as well. No caution for that incident. Meanwhile, at the front, Spencer Hardison's lost the lead to Shane Terrian, but at the back, drama and just an unfortunate incident for the 98 of Justin Munsell, who was running top 5 the majority of the afternoon.
Yeah, I went back and rewatched it. It looked like Robert Kenny, coming with a head of steam, was running well. King got a little out of shape. Contact between the 34 and the 43, which then caused the 43 of King to come down into Munsell, both of them into the inside wall. They're still running straight, but extremely off the pace. Also, into the pits is going to be the 88 of Brady Clark, as it looks like he's had his own issues.
There you see the 88 nationwide machine of Brady Clark in the pits right now. Not the day he obviously wanted. I don't believe this is his debut race. I believe he has raced at another track. Indeed, he has. This is his second or third start on this season, but a tough break for the 88. Regardless, he's going to be down in 22nd off the lead lap. Shane Terrian, he has taken the race lead away. Tom Bourne has got his hands full, though, with the 14 of Spencer Hardison. Justin Belmonte, who's shown some good speed today, trying to get around Bronson Stafford for the 4th spot. Joseph Causey, haven't really talked about him much today. He's hanging with these guys up here in the 6th spot, waiting for a hole to open up.
They're 3 wide back for 7th place. A little bit of contact from Schilling into Smith, and it's going to put Schilling up into the wall. Now we're going to be seeing other drivers pushing their way forward as Dyer and Riggs were side by side for a second there.
Dyer was very loose on the restart coming out of turn number 1. Nearly lost the machine whenever the drama was happening. In the back, Derek Schilling very loose. He's into the wall, the stage 1 winner.
And Schilling's going to just stay in the outside wall and trying to stay on there so no one else will get involved in the wreck. Now Schilling comes down, and that was really kind of expected with drivers that are on the much older tires and trying their best to hold on, but just not able to. As we move back up front, Justin Belmonte now trying to make a move on Tom Bourne for 2nd place.
Here comes Belmonte to the inside of the 54 of Bourne. You see out in the distance, Schilling into the pits. His promising day will come to an end as Belmonte nearly gets into Tom Bourne. Turn 1 has been the real trouble spot today, as we said it would be. Here comes the 5 of Joseph Causey out of PRM, trying to follow Belmonte through down the back straightaway.
Yeah, Tom Bourne and Causey going to be trying to figure out how to get by this 12 machine once again, but also might be thinking about what Shane told us, right? He talked about how important saving tires was. If you were able to save, you saw how this 83 was able to just cruise his way through the field during our first stage. It's possible to save your tires and really make a push here with about 10 laps to 5 laps into this run.
Causey very loose off a 3. Looks like he saves it. Now Justin Belmonte, you're going to ride on board with him right in the tire tracks of the 83 is Shane Terrian. With 32 laps to go in this race, still a lot can happen in the final bits of this race. Belmonte, has he used up too much of his stuff? He took 4 tires under the caution brake. Is it going to start wearing off on him as you see Terrian gap him a little bit here as you watch him fly by down the Long Pond straightaway?
Justin Munsell, who we saw looking so strong with the Luminary crew, he is officially DNF'd from this race after the contact with Nate King.
He's going to finish out of the race in 22nd position. And again, like we said, that win he got, it's really going to benefit that 98 of Justin Munsell, as he is already locked into the show, the postseason, whatever you want to call it, here in 3 races time. Justin Belmonte got a little loose there off of turn number 3, trying to still get around that number 83 of Terrian as you see him fan out way deep in the field. 6-car breakaway here at the front from Terrian, Belmonte, Bourne, Stafford, Causey, and Hardison, all under a blanket here, 1 second within each other.
Yeah, and then you go back to 7th place where you got Matt Dyer, who's going to be about 2 seconds off of this 6-pack group where they're trying to pull away, but it's looking like Justin Belmonte is really trying to push it, and it looks like the rest of the crew up here is kind of in save mode, just letting the 12 car run as hard as he wants. Shane Terrian, though, since he's up front, he doesn't know how much the other drivers are pushing, just trying to stay up front as much as he can.
Looking through this group here, of course, Terrian, he is locked in. Stafford, he is locked in. Guys like Belmonte, Bourne, Joseph Causey, and Spencer Hardison, they are not locked in to this postseason. So this is a sense of urgency for them. And speaking of which, here comes the 12 of Justin Belmonte to the inside of the number 83 of Shane Terrian. The NSM machine going to take over the lead as the battle will continue for second.
Yeah, and Tom Warren going to easily take that position back, and I think Shane Terrian might be thinking just save mode as you're seeing him drop back. Save your tires. Know that you can strike back later on in this run. It's still an early stage. We're not expecting these drivers to pit for at least another 8 to possibly 12 laps. Then that's around the window that it opens up for these drivers to make it to the end. So really, it's a wait mode for when we'll see these drivers pit.
Watching here on the backside here, Joseph Causey trying to maybe think about getting around Bronson Stafford again as Terrian settles in line behind his teammate Tom Bourne. Spencer Hardison, he's just been hanging here, just waiting for something to open up and happen. Oh, they're going to get a really good run here with Tom Bourne. Terrian going to push his teammate past the number 12 NSM machine of Justin Belmonte. And for the first time today, Tom Bourne is leading here in Pocono.
Tom Bourne really got a shove, and that's the power of the draft and bump drafting here. It's a hint of super speedway racing as Shane Terrian just shoved the 54 car into the optimal position to try to make that pass, and now he's got to back off. Going to be losing time to Bronson Stafford, and now we're seeing that 61 car making a push up front, but Tom Bourne trying to pull away from Justin Belmonte.
I'm starting to think Justin Belmonte may have used all of his stuff because he's made no motion to try and get back around the 54 of Tom Bourne. Of course, he doesn't really have help from behind. Bronson Stafford about three and a half car lengths behind the number 12. So watch the 12 here possibly to start sliding back as this group of 6 starting to spread out a little bit as Spencer Hardison was able to get around the 5 of Joseph Causey and move into the top 5 and 5th.
Yeah, the more they start to spread out, the more that they're enabling the cars that are further back that might have been in save mode for them to start making a push and grab onto their draft and start moving along. Matt Dyer, he was 2 seconds back. He's now cut that down by a half a second. It's now less than that, 1.2 seconds until he's on the back bumper of Joseph Causey and might be able to use that bumper as the draft to be moving forward.
Deshaun Gorham, who just took 10th spot away from Tyler Riggs, really loose off the exit of turn number 1. He keeps it going, though, in the 10th spot. Good run so far for the 66 machine of Gorham. Tyler Riggs and Tristan Maher. Maher early on showed some good speed. Haven't really seen him since. And another driver who was running really well in the top 5, kind of segregated from his teammates right now. That's the 34 of Robert Kenny in 13th right now, not running as well as we've seen him run in this race.
Yeah, the main thing for all those drivers that you just named, they all have damage. That's the key factor. The aero, dependency is so important here. That's such a large track like Pocono that if you get any type of damage, it's going to hurt you from being some of these cars that are up front with no damage. That's why we're seeing Tom Bourne, Belmonte, Shane Terrian, and Bronson Stafford having such good runs. It's because they don't have as much damage as those cars in the mid-pack and further back.
Battle for third. Here's Shane Terrian again, trying to get around his teammate Bronson Stafford. Hardison lays in wait about 2-3 car lengths back now of the 83 of Terrian. Terrian's going to slide back behind his teammate. and he will maintain the 4th spot for the time being. Definitely saving, though, is that number 83. I've been watching him. He is not making any sort of motion to try and push back forward to get to his teammate. As soon as I say that, he dives it back to the inside of Bronson Stafford once again as they head to turn number 1. Lap 75 on the board, 3/4 of the way home here in Pocono.
Yeah, we're expecting these drivers to really get set up and try to make a push here soon for those that have been in save mode and see if Spencer Hardison's got anything left in that 14 machine to possibly make a charge forward. Joseph Causey, who was a part of this 6-car pack, he has lost touch and actually has fallen back to Matt Dyer and possibly could be losing that 6th place position to the 2 machine.
Good run for Matt Dyer. A really good comeback day for him. I know there's still a lot of this race to go, but had that pit road miscue at the first round of green flag pit stops. And when I say miscue, it's definitely a lot more than a miscue. He missed this stall and had to back it up and line it up the right way because he was too close to the inside wall. Wouldn't be able to get as service to his machine as he gets under the 5 of Causey here for the 6th spot. Now, once he takes 6th, what a comeback, though, for that driver, the number 2 of Matt Dyer, as he's now going to try and maybe set his sights on his teammate at CEM, Spencer Hardison.
And also a pass for 2nd place. Shane Tarian able to get by Justin Belmonte. Now, for the audience, you're looking for around lap 80 is when we're going to be seeing a lot of drivers deciding to come into the pits, know that they can make it to the end. But Brandon King and the 89 machine already pulls it into the pits. And I think this might be a lap or two too soon for the 89 machine to be pitting and making it to the end.
Pitting here, it's going to dump him out with about 24 laps to go. It's going to be very, very close for the 89 to Brandon King, our winner last week at Auto Club. It looks like a fuel-only stop, 6.9 second stop for the 89. Doing a document, our Stage 1 winner, Derek Schilling. He is out of the race and behind the wall in 21st. A tough break for the 69. Had that trouble just about 8-9 laps ago, and that is what cost him his promising day as Bronson Stafford gets around Justin Belmonte. They'll head back down this back straightaway. 24 laps to go in the race.
Yeah, and it's not looking good for Belmonte, who's kind of in a lose situation. I don't think that he's in a save mode. I think he might have actually ran out of tires compared to the rest of the group, because Belmonte in the first about 5 to 6 laps was pushing so hard to try to get up front and lead the race that by the time that he got there, he then got absolutely blasted by a lot of these drivers. Tom Bourne getting a huge shove from Tarian, and then now Bronson able to get by the 12 machine, and soon Hardison will be the next driver to get passed by Belmonte here.
Stafford sitting in 3rd, Shane Tarian in 2nd, 4/10 behind his teammate Tom Bourne. Like I mentioned, Shane Tarian, Bronson Stafford, Justin Munsell, who's out of the race, they're all locked into the show. They have made the playoffs for this year. 3 of the 5 Luminary drivers in contention this season to make the playoffs. Will they let Tom Bourne have a shot here to try and get in and make it a 4-car Luminary pack for those 12 spots in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, as a team, you want to get as many drivers in there, but as a competitor, you're kind of hoping, hey, I know these guys are going to be quick. They might be someone that can steal the championship away from me, and we're seeing it right now. I mean, all the Luminary guys that are up front, they've been quick all season long, and they're trying to continue that on from this point, as it looks like Matt Dyer are going to be one of our front runners coming to the pits for that 2-car, and this is a usual strategy, be one of the first cars into the pits once you know the window is opened up.
To be a potential undercut of everyone else that's going to be coming in momentarily. I don't know. As Dyer pits at lap 79, it gives us 22 to go. Interesting call here. You don't like, sometimes you don't like to be the first one in the pits, but in some ways you start bringing the horde with you. As Dyer was the only one that came down in this one, 4 tires and packed full of fuel for that number 2 of Matt Dyer.
Yeah, Matt Dyer's done this before. He did it back at Indy, where he was one of the first cars to come to the pits. He had such a large gap that there was the talk of maybe he has a big enough lead, but with how early he's coming to the pits, he's going to have at least maybe a 4 to maybe an 8 lap older tires than the rest of the field once they come in. But we're expecting drivers to start trickling in now, and Nick King, he's now just pulled into the pits for that 43 machine. Now, these are cars that are further in the back, but Matt Dyer, he's thinking about going as fast as he can, as he was about 4 to 4.5 seconds back from our leaders, which he can easily gain all that time back. But the question is, can our leaders, once they come into the pits, can they run that 2 machine down?
Little loose there through turn 2. Looks like he's all right, and he'll keep going. Do you want to make a point here? Brandon King, he is back in for a second time. He is in 20th, 2 laps down. That strategy just did not play out for the 89 of Brandon King having to make another stop here. I don't know if he was penalized or anything, but it's going to definitely cost that number 89 a shot at a decent finish. Not quite the backup run he wanted after winning at Auto Club. Tom Bourne still in control of the lead, trying to hold off his teammate Shane Terrian right at the back bumper. They have opened up a very lengthy lead over their teammate Bronson Stafford. Pitting out of the 5th spot, though, is the 5 of Joseph Causey.
Yeah, Causey, the 5 machine coming into the pits, and like you said, it might start the trickling motion with Dyer coming in. You pointed out earlier in the stage, Robert Kenny was pretty far back. He's now up to 6th place after making a dazzling move on Durand and Smith, going 3 wide through the tunnel turn.
Kenny's trying to work his way back through. He's 11 seconds behind teammate Tom Bourne, 7 seconds behind the much slower now Justin Belmonte. I don't think he's going to make that up unless they just pass each other with the pits and stuff happening. As we are at 20 laps to go, lap 81 on the board. Lap 82, I think, eventually will come onto the board right here as Tom Bourne will hit the line now, and that'll give us 19 laps to go in the race. Only one that made a motion to the pits so far is the 20 of Dylan Stipe.
Yeah, and Stipe might be coming in here soon, and just keeping our eyes out on the drivers that are going to be pitting in their top 5 at the moment, because those are the drivers that were in front of Matt Dyer. Once they come in, we'll see how much ground has Dyer really tried to pull away from those drivers.
As Dylan Stipe gets his service fuel-only stop for the 20. As, I'm trying to think about this here, Sam. We're at 19 laps to go, soon to be 18 when Tom Bourne hits the line here. If a caution were to come out in these final 18 laps, who is it going to hurt or who is it going to benefit?
It's going to hurt Dyer for sure, because he was running in that about to be 5th place position if he was still running out there with all the drivers he was around. So if anything, the 2 machine would have been hurt the most. All the drivers have already pitted because they have a set left, as now it looks like David Durand going to be pulling himself into the pits. But these guys up front, this would be a miracle for them because they're going to have that track position. But at the same time, they're kind of hoping it goes green to the end because they're going to have such a gap and they won't have to worry about the rest of the field moving forward.
David Durand, Tristan Maher, and Tyler Riggs, just 3 cars that decide to make it into the pits this time by, as you see the 24 and 17 making their way to their stalls. 24 cleanly into his, 17 cleanly into his, same with the 26 of Tyler Riggs. I'm impressed with Tyler Riggs. He's had a little bit of trouble today. He's been running well, and he's been in the top 10 in and out of it. Was really fast in practice, so I was expecting a little more out of him, but despite that, he's been able to keep it on the lead lap and keep the car mostly clean throughout this race. So give a call to the 26, Justin Belmonte, pitting out of 5th.
Yeah, Belmonte now, I think this is a great call on his part. Come into the pits and really try to pull away as much as he can and hope that Tom Bourne, Shane Terrian, Bronson Stafford, and Harson, when they come into the pits, because they are still pretty spread out besides our front 2 that are right on top of one another. But Tom Bourne looks like he might be blinking slightly, which could be affecting the draft just a little bit. But now we're starting to see lap cars interacting with our leaders. And with the fresher tires they have, this is going to be sketchy for them. Machine Terrian now trying to duck around 3 wide now, as that's going to be Tristan Maher stuck in the middle between our 2 front drivers, as now they get by the 17. This is just nerve-wracking to see because you don't want to see a lap car take out one of our leaders.
83 says, nah, I don't want to deal with that. Here he comes, the 83 of Terrian into the pits. Tom Bourne, he's going to keep it out there for now around that lap traffic. Spencer Hardison follows the 83 in. Trying to look through here. It's going to be roughly 5 cars that have now 4 cars as Robert Kenny ducks into the pits that have yet to come down and make a stop. Make that 3 because Evan Coleman, he's now into the pits as well. And I've lost Matt Dyer on my screen.
Yeah, Matt Dyer has disappeared at the second. We're waiting to see if he will come back. But if he is not back here in the next about 3 to 4 minutes, it will be officially removing him from the lobby. And he's dropping down the leaderboard. This is not looking good for Dyer. That was about to have a great run for himself.
Still hasn't reappeared. Joseph Causey is now the driver in that catbird position, if you will, as he just goes by Shane Terrian. Terrian returning to the racetrack. Oh my goodness, that's not going to be a big enough gap at all for the 5. Joseph Causey. I'm watching here. Tom Bourne, he is into the pits. Matt Dyer still has not reappeared.
Dyer is officially 1 lap down once he reappears back into the race. It's not looking good. His race looks like it will be done here today. And that is a terrible time because he was one of those drivers that, with the possibility of this race going green, was looking to get a top 5 finish possibly with the way that his car was running at the end.
Tom Bourne getting his service right now in the pits right now. Going to get it back out there, and he is good to go. Caleb Smith and Bronson Stafford are the only 2 we're waiting on for everything to cycle out around. And it's going to cycle around to Joseph Causey because Tom Bourne now, after that stop, it's going to list him behind his teammate Shane Terrian, and now even behind Justin Belmonte as here comes Stafford into the pits. Now we're going to watch Smith as he's coming through the tunnel turn here when he's going to make his move into pit lane in the number 25 Old Spice Ford. See how long he keeps it out there. Not much longer. 15 laps to go in a final car for this pit cycle as he had to lock it up coming in. Don't know if it's gonna flat spot his tires. So if he was planning just a fuel only stop, it's out the window now. So we're going to now be watching the 5 of Joseph Causey as he's working his way through turn 3 and onto the front stretch. Shane Terrian, he is about 1.3 seconds off of him and is coming in a hurry.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eye on Bronson Stafford because this 61 machine is going to have the freshest tires of our front runners. He's going to have a 2-lap advantage on everyone else, and this is huge here at Pocono as we've already seen the massive drop-off on the tires. And right now, Bronson Stafford going to be back in around 5th place position, 4th place, as he's going to move up in front of his teammate of Tom Bourne. And now, how well can we see this driver start to pull away? Tom Bourne also going to be on fresher tires than Shane Terrian. So this is the advantage both for the 54 and the 61 to make a charge to the lead, but they're pretty far back from our leaders.
Going to wait for my monitor to reset here. Whenever they come around, Joseph Causey's not going to be able to hold off the 83 as much as, he would love to. It's obvious that he's not going to be able to because of the older tires on that 5, and it's going to happen sooner than you think because the 83 is just bearing down on him right now on the front straightaway. 13 laps to go. The 83 is going to get by him this time by. The gap between Terrian, Belmonte, Stafford, and Bourne, it's 3 to 4 seconds. That is definitely not insurmountable, especially when you factor in the 83 is going to have to fight to get around the 5 here.
And you thought it was going to be a fight. Not really. Shane Terrian powers his way through down the front stretch. Not even a block from Causey, understanding, hey, you've got the better tires. You're going to be faster than me. Just take off. Now we got to see what the driver's going to deal with traffic. Because in front of them, they got the 20 of Stipe, who most likely is going to get out of the way for our leaders and will be moving to the outside most likely here. And also, if you drop back for the battle for 3rd place, Belmonte under fire from Bronson Stafford and soon to be Tom Bourne, as now we're starting to see the edge of Belmonte being about 2.5 seconds back. That's the gap that Bronson Stafford has to try to run down Shane Terrian for the lead.
It's going to be looking pretty doable for that 61 of Bronson Stafford, our winner back at Michigan. A dominant run he had there and a dramatic finish as well. He's going to try and maybe set the same thing up here as well at Pocono. It's a 3-horse race for 3rd right now. Tom Bourne going to creep up on the 12 here of Justin Belmonte. Spencer Hardison, who's been hanging with these guys way in the back of your screen, 5 seconds off the leader, Shane Terrian, as Tom Bourne sticks it to the inside here of Belmonte. And now let's see how Bronson Stafford negotiates this lap. Traffic had to check up for the 20 of Dylan Stipe as they were coming out of turn 2. It's going to cost him a little bit of time, but not too much.
Yeah, still closing rate is incredible to see from the 61 onto the 5 car, as now it's about 1.1 seconds is the difference between Causey and Stafford, and then after that it's another about 1.1 to 1.2 seconds from Causey to Therian. I mean, Itarian, and right now Tom Bourne now going to be making a move here on Bronson Stafford, trying to be the first car to be making a charge, as now Bronson Stafford looks like he might be in a little bit of a save mode for a second as they're still side by side.
This is going to cost them a little bit of time. 11 laps to go. They're starting to catch the 5 of Joseph Causey. Tom Bourne making a bold move here to try and get around his teammate and get up there with Shane Terrian. But Stafford, for the moment, holds off the 54, and the 12 will creep back into the battle as well. Don't count him out just yet. He'll stick it to the inside here of the 54. That'll take the pressure off of the 61 of Bronson Stafford. He's going to catch the 5 here into the corner onto the front stretch, so it'll cost him a little more time. But now, here is the moment for Stafford. It is rundown mode at this point to try and catch Shane Terrian, who is still trying to negotiate lap traffic himself.
That last lap, they lost over a tenth, almost 2/10 with Tom Bourne and Bronson Stafford driving side by side, and it's looking like they need to stay single filed up. Yes, you want to make the pass, but if you want a chance for the win, you need to work together right now and utilize the draft and really stick to one another. You got the fresher tires. All you have to do is try to run down that 83 machine, and it's still possible, even though it's 10 laps to go, soon to be 9.
And a check up for the 88 of Brady Clark, who's off the pace. They'll get around him. And now it is clear sailing for these two drivers to run down their teammate. Lap traffic really far off for the moment right now, though, of Shane Terrian. So there's nothing up there to slow him down. But now Stafford's in clean air. He's cut the gap to 2.2 seconds. He gained 2/10 that time by. Does he have the stuff to run down Shane Terrian?
It was about a gain of almost, I believe, with the fact that Terrian was catching up to lap traffic at pretty poor times. It was almost a second per lap about 3 laps ago. Now it's only tenths. He's got, right now, Bronson Stafford, Tom Bourne, they have to work together because they're 2.2 seconds back. But like that, Tom Bourne feeling like he needs to be the car leading as they go side by side again. And this is going to hurt them once more. And it's not like them staying side by side is giving them any advantage. It's hurting them and allowing the gap to stay where it's at.
I think Tom realizes that now. He backs off of the 61, showing that he has got the speed. So, and I know they're teammates, so they can talk to each other. I'm sure Bronson is telling him, "Hey, back off. Let's go run down Shane, and then you can try and get around me." As the gap is 2 seconds, car sideways on the front end of turn 2. He saved it. I'm trying to figure out who it was. It may have been the 20 of Dylan Stipe.
As we look, I'm looking back to figure out what car that was, and I think you might be right. It might have been Stipe. Coming out of 3, excuse me, it was. He got into the wall. Robert Kenny somehow evaded the 20 machine. No yellow comes out, and somehow the 20 machine evaded the inside wall, carrying himself and currently going straight.
That would have been disastrous for Shane Terrian if that caution were to come out, because that brings everybody back to the party. As I'm trying to look through this group here, Causey has slid all the way back to 5th. Spencer Hardison will get around him eventually. But at the line, 7 laps to go. Sam, Bronson Stafford has cut the lead to 1.4 seconds.
Yeah, it's been about 7/10 since they finally calmed down for 2 laps and been trying to run down Shane Terrian. But really, once you get about 7/10 to the car in front of you, that's when you start to be feeling the draft just a little bit, tugging at you and pulling you closer to the car that you're trying to run down. So right now, Bronson Stafford needs to run down by another 7/10 and hope that he's there within the next 3 laps to have an opportunity for the lead.
Lap traffic just ahead of these guys. As the 83 is running up on Travis Daly. He'll negotiate him with ease as he'll take him into 3, and he'll get out of the way. Nick King is the next one that the 83 Itarian has to worry about here, as Tom Bourne and Bronson Stafford, they're going to have to deal with the 15 as well. It's looking like they're going to have to deal with him in the 1. That's not where you want to deal with him, although looks like Daly... Oh, Daly, is he going to give him the space? Yes, he will. Here comes Stafford to the inside of Daly. That'll move him to the outer groove. And as Terrian was at the same time was negotiating the 43 of Nick King, he does get around him with 6 laps to go. Stafford 1 second flat to his teammate in the 83.
Yeah, and right now Stafford having a great run so far, and he stayed out 2 laps extra than Shane Terrian, and it was for this point to have the extra tires to try to run down the 83 machine. And this is the best opportunity. A great decision by this driver. Tom went an extra lap past Shane Terrian, and it's allowed him to stay close to the 61. But now they've caught up to lap traffic at a poor time, but still trying to get around as they utilize the draft down the front stretch.
0.7 of a second between Shane Terrian and Bronson Stafford. 5 laps to go, and looking at the map, not a whole lot of lap traffic. They're coming up to the 9 of Campbell Delaney and then the 89 of Brandon King. I think that's all they're going to have to deal with in these final 5 laps of this one. The gap extends back to 0.7, now 0.8 between Shane Terrian and Bronson Stafford. Shane trying to keep as much space between him and the 61.
Yeah, and right now he's trying everything that he can, and really what he's hoping for is that he can get up to the 9 and utilize the 9, but Bronson gets a little out of shape, and that's going to give Tom Bourne an opportunity now to run down the 61, getting a little bit closer, just not close enough to try to make a pass.
Both drivers within a second and in striking distance of Terrian. Terrian, though, survives for another lap. 4 laps to go. They're ticking away, folks. It's a 3-horse race to determine a victor tonight here at Pocono. The 83 of Terrian, he's in the playoffs. The 61 of Stafford, he's in the playoffs. The 54 of Tom Bourne, he wants in the playoffs. And he's got a big opportunity here as it's within half a second now between the 83 of Terrian and the 61 of Stafford as they head down the straightaway again.
Tom got second at Dover and also has just been trying his best. He's had fast cars at Kansas, at Indy, and at Michigan, but bad luck has caught up to the 54 machine, and he's hoping that this might be the chance for Tom Bourne to get the win, but he's got to pass 2 of his teammates, and right now Bronson Stafford in the most optimal time with the freshest of tires up front.
They're coming up to the 9 of Campbell Delaney. This is for the last car on the lead lap. That was Campbell Delaney. So let's see how much he should just get out of the way to the 3 leaders and let them race. Terrian survives another lap. 3 laps to go here at Pocono. The gap hasn't really closed all that much. Delaney going to try and get out of the way of Terrian. He does. He's going to ride the high groove here to allow the 61 and 54 to get by cleanly. Just getting the 61 and 54 by. More cost the 54 of Bourne that time by. As there they go down the back stretch again. 0.6 of a second between Terrian and Stafford.
Yeah, and right now, Bronson Stafford just at the edge of where you can start feeling the draft, and that's why he's starting to inch his way. And also, we're starting to see maybe Terrian might be thinking about saving his tires for maybe a late push, but the tire difference is so massive with just 2 laps. I don't know if saving's the right call. And so right now, Bronson is catching up to Shane Terrian, and it's going to be close here, coming to 2 laps to go once they cross the line.
Half a second between the 83 and the 61. Terrian has done a good job of just keeping just enough space between himself and the 61. As they come through turn number 1, again, the gap closing ever so slightly. Tom Bourne trying to give as much of a push as he can. They're all in the same picture. This is going to maybe come down to the white flag lap.
Yeah, and Brandon King is going to be the next lap car that these drivers could come up to. And the pace that King is putting down compared to what our leaders are doing, that lap machine could be a factor here coming to the white flag.
Nobody else to worry about it's just these 3 drivers. 2 of them into the postseason, 1 of them wanting to get into the postseason. Stafford is there. He is to the back bumper of the 83, Shane Terrian. As they come out of turn number 3, they will see the white flag in the air. The flagman's got it. What's going to happen here in 2.5 more miles of racing? White flag in the air, 1 lap to go here at Pocono. 3 cars to settle it.
We've already seen what Shane Terrian and Bronson Stafford are willing to do for a win. We saw it at Indy. They were willing to battle back and forth, almost dumping each other into the wall, side by side, bringing in Tom Bourne now. As Bourne's going to be caught up, he's got to back off just a little bit, getting side by side with Shane Terrian, and now Bourne trying to make a strike at Bronson Stafford.
Bourne has got to clear the 83 into turn 2. Indeed, he will. It's going to set up a battle down the front stretch. Tom Bourne trying to get into the postseason. He finished second at Dover, has had heartbreak since. Here comes the 54 of Tom Bourne to the inside of Bronson Stafford. He's got the preferred line down into turn 3. The 54 of Tom Bourne going to try and clear the 61. Near contact. Here comes Terrian to the inside of Bourne. It's going to be a drag race all the way to the start-finish line. Who's going to get it? It is Tom Bourne by half a car length. Tom Bourne is into the playoffs. The 4th luminary driver to do it. What a drive by the 54 of Tom Bourne.
It took that little bit of an edge, Tom, due to the fact that he floored it, bumping his teammate, Bronson Stafford, up just a tad. Him sticking into it allowed him to have that momentum to beat out Shane Terrian. But was it close? As now the 9 going to be working in front of Terrian there. But man, a close finish here at Pocono. And you knew it was from some of the most dominant cars. Tom Bourne and Terrian had to battle their way through stage number 1 to get up front. Stage 2, they try to stay up there. And here at the end, once again, it's the 3 fastest cars getting it done.
Tom Bourne, the now 4th Luminary driver into the playoffs. He joins Shane Terry and Justin Munsell and Bronson Stafford in the postseason as he's going to get a celebratory tap there from his teammate. We're going to let him burn it down here, and then we're going to replay that incredible finish as here's Robert Kenny. He's up here celebrating. Robert Kenny, he brought it home 6, so a 1-2-3-6 finish today for Luminary Racing with Justin Belmonte and Spencer Hardison between them in 4th and 5th. As here comes Tom Bourne in that number 54 Toyota. Tom, you've been waiting a long time to do this. He's going to burn it down for the virtual fans here in Long Pond, Pennsylvania, here today at Pocono.
Yeah, I mean, with the way that these drivers have been just battling all night long, Tom kept his car clean until the very end when he needed to use this little bit of his side pod there to make him some moves, and it worked out great for the 54 machine with a drag race to the finish line and getting it done.
As he burns it down for you guys, let's look back. Let's take a look back at this finish for between Tom Bourne, Shane Terrian, Bronson Stafford. We're going to show you the sequence from the Long Pond straightaway all the way to the start-finish line. Where it started, down the back straightaway, Bronson Stafford and Tom Bourne in the draft with each other, trying to get around the 83.
Yeah, I mean, they were trying all types of moves here, and it was all about just full sending it for both those drivers. They found an opening, had to go for it, knowing that they didn't want to completely wreck the other drivers as due to the fact that they're teammates, but understanding, hey, this is hard, aggressive racing. It's the final lap. It's all about a win, and for Tom Bourne, it was a win to get in.
I'm going to try and stop it for you guys and just show you how close it was. I couldn't quite get it, but that tells it right there. The gap between them, 37 hundredths of a second between Tom Bourne and Shane Terrian. What a finish here in race number 12 of 20 on the year here in the Clutch Drop Cup Series. Just unbelievable. You love to see this type of racing, especially out of teammates at that. It reminds me of just the duels that, that Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson had for so many years in the NASCAR Cup Series. And now you look at it here between teammates of Tom Bourne, Shane Terrian, and Bronson Stafford. And with that, welcome you to the post-race wind down here on Flatout Racing Network. Here in the race number 12 on the year of the Clutch Drop Cup Series, you're going to get ready and get to hear from your top 3, all out of Luminary Racing. We're going to start, however, with the number 61 of Bronson Stafford, who ended up third out of this top 3. Howdy, Bronson. This is Carlos and Sam in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yep.
Whew, I'm trying to collect my thoughts and my breath here for a minute. What a wild finish. You made the bold move on the final lap, getting around Shane into turn 1. And then you had to have a gut feeling it was going to come down to you 3, and then ended up you and Tom through the tunnel turn and into 3. Just unpack that last green flag run for us.
Yeah. Really, I struggled with damage from early on in the race. I followed Riggs into the turn 2 wall, and finally that last stop, I got some adjustments that kind of let me drive with it better. But once I got past Shane on the last lap, I got really tight in turn 2. It was like the first time back in clean air with the damage, and I got too tight. Tom was able to get the run, and then he pushed up a little bit in 3, and I had to let off, or we were probably going to the fence. I would have got his right rear, I think, and we would have went to the fence. So, it was good racing with the 3 of us. Really glad. It's cool. Tom finally was able to get one here, and I know he was going to be able to point his way in, but a win just solidifies it in. So that's cool to see. Now we just gotta hope Kenny can avoid trouble and try and get a win.
Yeah, I mean, Bronson, an overall great run for yourself, but we saw with about 10 laps to go, Tom and yourself were both about 2.5 seconds back from Shane, and then you saw Tom was side by side action with you. You guys weren't gaining any time. Was there a little bit of communication saying, "Hey, let's just stay in line and start to run down Shane"?
Yeah, there was a little bit there since it was only a 2 second gap. I just came out of pit road. It took about 4 or 5 laps for the tires to not be so loose. And once they hooked up, you could see I was able to get about half a second gap on Tom and kind of carry him in my draft. And we were able to run down Shane. I think I had like 2 laps fresher than Shane. So, that little bit of tire difference is really what allowed it to happen. And, it kind of made for a wild last lap.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a wild couple of races. I mean, we got here at the 2.5 mile of Pocono, and now we're going to be going to Bristol, Texas, and Richmond. So different these last couple of races. How are you feeling for these last couple of races before we get to playoffs?
I really like Bristol. Haven't done it with open setup, so that'll be an interesting one. But that should be a lot easier of a track to set up than this one. This one was, quite frankly, it was a tough one to set up properly for a setup, and we did nail something just maybe even 20 minutes before the race started. Texas, that one's another kind of weird one, just because the different turns, but I mean, you kind of set up for 1 and 2 since 3 and 4 is full throttle anyway, and then Richmond's always just a lot of fun as a regular season closer. So we get three good tracks left. Really, it should be fun.
Alrighty, Bronson. Before we let you go, and we'll get on to your teammates of Shane Terrian and Tom Bourne, the floor is yours for any shout outs you'd like to give.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone at Luminary sponsors and Matt Rod and all the drivers. Justin didn't have a great night, and that sucks. He was really quick early on, and he ran out of fuel and had to pit at the end of stage 2 and get the EOL for it. Kenny ran good, and obviously Tom and Shane, we all ran really good, and it's nice to see the dynamic already working really well. And obviously, Clutch Drop putting this on. It's been a really fun league since we've joined in. That I think around Dover, it's been a lot of fun, and it's really cool to see still good car counts with open setups and stuff. And obviously, you guys FRN doing the broadcast every week. It's always a lot of fun to watch you guys back.
Alrighty, as always, it's a pleasure to bring it to everyone. Again, that was Bronson Stafford, your third place finisher here tonight. Head to Bristol next week. We'll see how it plays out, man. Best of luck to you and have a good rest of your night.
All right, thanks, Carlos.
All right, we'll now talk to our second place finisher in Shane Terrian. Hey, Shane, this is Carlos and Sam in the FRN booth. You got us?
I got you.
I can tell from the tone of your voice there. You're not exactly happy with not getting the win tonight, but of course, just quite the battle to do it side by side with your teammate Tom Bourne all the way to the line. They ended up being a gap of 37/100ths of a second, one of our closest finishes this year in clutch drop. Just give me your thoughts, man. I know it's a tough way to lose one, but I'm sure you're content with second place in terms of getting some extra points for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean it's better to lose to a teammate than anything, but it's the second time, had a dominant car and then got passed in the final lap here. The last time I raced here, it was Robert Kenny passed me in literally the last corner, and then again tonight with Bronson and Tom. But I entered turn 1 with Bronson underneath me. I hit the bumps, and then I wasn't gonna stay side by side with Tom in the tunnel turn because it wasn't gonna give me another chance. So I let him go, and then hoped that they would make contact, and they did. But I didn't have. I let off a tiny bit off of 3, thinking I was gonna push up into Tom, but I wasn't gonna wreck him. So I didn't let off coming off of 3. I would probably cleared him, but good on Tom. He got the win. Now it's time to just focus on getting Kenny enough points or possibly a win to him to get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Shane, we talked to you back at the end of stage 2 when you won there. And then you talked about how saving tires was the key for those stages. How was it, though, for this end of this run? Because you look like since you were one of the first drivers to pit, you really needed to push and keep yourself ahead of everyone else. Was there really any time for you to save your tires?
I was saving the entire time after I pit. Um, because I knew they were going to catch me regardless. I didn't think it would take that long, but I knew they would catch me and the draft would keep me with them and I'd still have enough tire because they had to wear it out. So I think if they would have caught me a lap earlier, I would have still had a chance to win. But having it on the final lap and then everything being chaotic, it just didn't play out. But yeah, I was saving tires the entire time. I wasn't pushing, just saving them, and it's kind of wish it happened a lap earlier because I probably could have held them off or at least gotten back by them.
Yeah, I mean,
Now,
we've talked. Yeah. What do you got, Carlos?
Now, I was gonna say, sorry to cut you off, Sam, but I was gonna say, you had to it's a shift of tracks. You go from the 2.5, you go from the 2 mile of Auto Club, the 2.5 mile triangle of Pocono, and now you really downgrade to the half-mile of Bristol, Thunder Valley next week. What's going to be the strategy? It's open setup. Is it going to be a tough one for you to handle, or do you feel confident?
It'll be a tough one, based on lap traffic and how these guys set up their cars. I think a lot of people are going to set up loose just so they can dig in those corners. But I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, I'm glad we had the setup right this week. Last week we were way off, so to come here and we had a chance at a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I think I might have jinxed Justin saying he'd be able to get through the field, so I feel bad about that. And then Kenny had his issues, but rebounding to 6 is good. So yeah, Bristol's going to be a tough one. Just going to stay clean, stay alive, and get a setup that's going to roll the top or even roll the bottom. If you can probably get a setup to roll the bottom, I think you're going to be the best car out there. But that's probably really, really hard to do.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a messy race at Bristol. But Shane, before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
Yeah, I'm gonna shout out my Luminary guys. Another 1, 2, 3 finish. It sucks I wasn't the winner this time because last time we 2 out of the 4 times so far I won them. But congrats to Tom on winning. It was great. Evil controllers, you guys for broadcasting. I have it up every time I race. So every time I hear you guys screaming, I can see what's going on. So mostly Sam screaming, but I can go back and see what's going on. It's it's fun to watch, and of course, thanks for Clutch Drop for having us. And move on to next week.
Alrighty, Shane. Once again, second place run tonight for Shane Terrian. Just a little short of win number 3 on the year, but he's content with second. We'll see you in Bristol.
Thank you.
And we now bring in Tom Bourne. You got it done, Tom. What a run for you. You held off Shane. Again, 3700ths of a second. I've said it about 5 times now, but that's one of our closest finishes this year. And it's your first win of the year. You're in the playoffs with your teammates that have got in. Tell me, man, how does it feel?
It feels like it feels like everything's just been taken off my shoulders. Missing the first 4 or 5 races of the season really put all of us in a hole. And Shane got the win early at Dover in the first race, and then Bronson ended up winning. I forgot where. And Justin won at the Roval, and it was going to come down to me and Bob needing a win. I was close on points, but a win definitely makes sure you're in the chase and everything. So I'm still in shock, honestly. Pocono is one of my best tracks, and I'm happy to get the win here.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, we were talking about this off stream with you, was the fact that you felt confident about Pocono, that it was one of your favorite tracks. But we saw there for a moment with about 10 laps to go, we got Bronson's point of view. But from your point of view, when you were getting side by side with Bronson, was your goal to get in front of him and pull him along, or what was the plan for you when you were trying to pass Bronson there?
So that was the plan originally, because Bronson kept saying he was getting loose in clean air, well, in front and everything. But throughout the runs prior, he kept saying he was getting tight behind other cars. So I'm like, all right, let me go by, so at least your car tightens up. And at the end of the day, it all worked out. Both our cars came in at the right time. I think Shane pitting a lap before me and Bronson, or 2 laps before Bronson, kind of hurt him a little bit. But at the end of the day, Luminary 1, 2, 3 again. I can't be more happy with this team and how far we've come in such a short amount of time.
And now, Tom, as I mentioned to Shane, it's a really different shift in terms of tracks. Like I said, told him, you go from Auto Club to Pocono, and now you really slow it down to the half-mile oval in Bristol, Tennessee. What's the mindset? It's open setup. What is going to be your plan to try and go for win number 2?
Well, I'm really focused on trying to get Bob's setup dialed in, so we can get him into the chase and everything. I knew I had to get something done before these last 3 races, because Texas is it's anyone's race. It's basically full throttle and open setups. Bristol and Richmond, short tracks, anything can happen. So I felt like this was my last chance. These last 2 races, I felt I had a really good car. It's just Auto Club, the setup was a little off, and it is what it is. And Pocono, we really dialed it in this week, and we brought our A game.
Yeah, Tom, an awesome race for yourself, able to run down, make the pass side by side across the line, and locking yourself into the playoffs and really taking that stress off for these next 3 races. Congratulations on the win. But before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
Yeah, I first of all, I just want to thank Bronson for putting together such an amazing setup this week. Shane, Bob, all Matt Rod, the whole rest of the team at Luminary, always putting on great shows for you guys. And Fire News, G Fuel. G Fuel's been on the car for I don't know how long now. It's over 5-6 years. So it's finally good to actually get a win for them again. And Luminary Racing, Clutch Drop for putting on this amazing league, and you guys for putting on the broadcasts every week. They're always amazing.
All righty, Tom Bourne finally getting the monkey off the back, as a lot of people said about Earnhardt winning the 500 for the first time. You get your own kind of monkey off the back here with a win here tonight in Pocono. You're in the playoffs. Best of luck to you at Bristol. We'll see if you guys are able to rally around Kenny to try and get him into the playoffs.
Thanks, guys. Let's go get this championship.
As we have cracked 11 o'clock on the East Coast, we'll now start to wrap things up here. Sam, it was a relatively clean race. Only 3 cautions, 2 of them being for stage breaks. So these guys really held their own, and it set up a phenomenal finish.
Yeah, it was a great finish to the end. Some drivers were hoping for better days, Tom locking himself into playoffs, but some of the drivers that are further back that were looking for days that could carry them forward with momentum. Matt Dyer, he didn't get the day that he wanted. Stipe, luckily, is doing well points-wise, but this was not the day that the 20 machine was looking for either. And honestly, some of the drivers that are further back, Brandon King and also Justin Munsell, luckily they both have wins because this was not the day that they needed coming to the end of the regular season.
It is definitely not what they needed. Like you said, Dylan Stipe, Philip Scott, and Nathan Hall all having trouble today. I do want to flash up our finishing results one more time. Looking through here, good runs for Spencer Hardison, Joseph Causey, Caleb Smith, Evan Coleman, Tyler Riggs. That was just the rest of your top 10 outside of the Luminary guys, with Justin Belmonte 4th. And then you see some other guys. Only had 13 cars finish on the lead lap. Tristan Maher, David Duran, and Deshaun Gorham. David Duran finishing 12th. It's going to help him in points. He's going to pass Nathan Hall in the points, move up further in the top 10. So he's trying to solidify himself into the playoffs. Campbell Delaney, Nick King, Travis Dowley, those were your cars 1 lap down. Dylan Stipe having his troubles. Brady Clark, Brandon King, and Matt Dyer, Matt Dyer, an unfortunate finish to his day, having internet issues that cost him a good finish. He ends up 20th. And then everyone from 21st on back, Kevin Morin didn't make the race, but everyone else wrecked out, as you see there on your screen. Man, what an exciting way to finish Pocono. You typically don't get those kind of finishes at a track like this, so very exciting to see that it goes down like that. Well, Sam, Slipstream Formula One championships come to an end. What's coming up here on FRN this coming week?
Yes, Slipstream came to an end last week, which means that we have an off day tomorrow, I believe, for Flatout Racing Network. But we have a busy week after that. Tuesday, we've got G-Force with the ARCA Series going to be at the Legacy Phoenix track. And then on Wednesday, we've got the SARG Super Speedway Series, race number 11, as they are in the middle of playoffs. And then also on Thursday, we've got the RTG Rally Challenge for the NR 2003 side of things.
And then, of course, right back here, same time, same great channel here on the Flatout Racing Network, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. We're in Thunder Valley. Myself and Sam will be here for that race. 300 laps around Bristol. And like Tom said, anything can happen at these short tracks. And we got 2 of them coming up, with Bristol next week. And then the first race of 2021, it'll be at Richmond. Should be a lot of fun, with Texas right in the middle, 2 weeks from tonight. Sam, always a pleasure to have you here in the booth, and we got a good show to wrap things up here in Pocono.
Oh, yeah, it was a fabulous show for us to see, and I can't wait to see how the rest of the regular season goes right before playoffs.
With 3 races remaining, anything can happen. 6 drivers have locked their way in. There's 6 spots up for grabs here in the Clutch Drop Cup Series. For Sam Dyer, I am Carlos Zimmerman. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Flatout Racing Network. We will see you next time, once again, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, for race number 13 of 20 on the year at the Bristol Motor Speedway in Thunder Valley. Good night from Long Pond, Pennsylvania. We'll see you in Bristol next week. Have a good one, y'all.